Guys, this is Murali at SALT. Uh, Today's topic is actually like to talk about briefly about the one of the methodologies that we have developed here for critical reading. Uh, this is part of that methodology, and we will in other videos that we will talk about what the entire methodology is. But a part of it is basically like to recognize the patterns. So when you see any paragraph or when you see any passage that you need to read and comprehend and answer questions, we want you to understand that like you typically you can put them into certain patterns. Uh, Again, not all the passages will be into. You can put them into one of these patterns, but at least some a part of the passage may fall into part of the pattern. So at least by understanding what these patterns are, how a writer is writing them, understanding the organizational structures, the different organizational structures associated in writing, you will know, where it is going, where the passage is heading, and all. So, but what is the benefit of that? Why do we need to use? Why do we need to recognize these patterns, right? One is we understand that a purpose is very important. The earlier videos we read about uh, like found out that like purpose is very very important to make to add engagement and interest, so that like we will be engaged and will actively read it, not passively. So that's one thing. It will give us a purpose. It's basically trying to match a pattern and then like hey, trying to understand from your short-term memory to match with something against your long-term memory, and it has a purpose to read through. Again, your long-term memory is activated and used, and mind usually responds to logical patterns. So there is that's the reason why we here after doing a lot of research, we found that we need like understanding the patterns upfront will give you an edge over critical reading and cracking that. Okay, the first thing I want you to know is like a basic unit of thought is a paragraph. It's not a sentence. It's definitely not a sentence. It's a paragraph. So when you look at a paragraph, one thought is being communicated to you by the author. As simple as that. That's the whole purpose of the paragraph. The author is trying to convey something, and he is using like different methods, different ways to convey that thought to you. So that's a basic unit of thought. So when you read, your goal is to like skim through the passage, like skim through a paragraph, and understand that there is one thought associated with the paragraph. Okay, so coming to the first paragraph usually has a main idea, or the first line of a paragraph or the second paragraph will have the main idea. This is one of those patterns. Again, not every one of these passages fall into this one, but some a part of it, yes. Sometimes uh, you can see how it is developed and stuff like that. Okay, so the main idea is usually depicted in the first paragraph or the first line of the second paragraph. So it's always better to pay a little bit more attention to the first paragraph, and then skip or skim through the. Like we said last time, right? In the first read, you just have those questions, and then you read them really fast. But the first paragraph, pay a little more attention to that to actually get to the main idea, to understand the main idea. The subsequent paragraph, there is a purpose to that. So the author is trying to convey something in the subsequent paragraphs. In the first paragraph, he will convey or she will convey a main idea. Then the subsequent paragraphs, there is a purpose to that. So what is the author trying to convey? Usually it is to elaborate or support that main idea. So the author actually comes up with the main idea in the first paragraph, and in the subsequent paragraphs, so they're elaborating the main idea. So how would they do that? How do they do that, right? There are like 5 ways in this one. There are 5 ways they can do that. One is offering examples, defining a key term, providing details, comparing a related idea, and quoting an expert. So these are like different ways. I mean, there are much more, like many other ways, and we will cover them in the organizational structures in the next video. But this is how, I mean, some of the, I mean, how an author could actually elaborate or support the main idea. They can quote an expert or compare a related idea to this one and give some details using like list or list of all the details in there, and define a key term and offering examples. We'll go more in depth with all these things, like we'll come up with the exact, like the words which are triggering them, uh, the signal words, what we call, and we'll give you an example of how it's laid out and everything. So once the author gives the supporting details, what usually they'll do is like they will qualify they qualify the topic. When I say qualify the topic, it means that they're putting a restriction or an exception to that idea, are usually pointed out. So now they're trying to do a contrast. So they've given some supporting details. Now they'll go back and say, hey, but I mean, this is what, in this case, like it's not going to be or whatever. So they're trying to come up with how to restrict that idea and what is the usual exceptions are, things like that. So your signal words are although, despite, except, however, though, yet, and things like that. So that's how you qualify the topic. Then once you qualify the topic, they will generally apply that. So that means like, how that particular main area can be applied to like a global perspective, like a big picture kind of a thing. So I mean, so it's his own idea, right? So I mean, so the author like is saying that this is how I'm supporting it, and then they will come back and say that, hey, also it may not work in this case. So that like basically punching holes into his own or her own theory or her own main idea. Then finally say that, hey, but still like at the end of the day, it can be applied on a big picture holistically like this. So that's it, folks. This is one of those patterns. Again, this is not every passage will be like this, but you get an idea, and sometimes like just like I mean, just a part of it, right? You can see a passage will just have this qualify the topic. So that means like they have elaborated in different ways, and then like it's a memoir or some other kind of writing, some other kind of passage, but in one of the paragraphs they're trying to qualify the topic. So as soon as you see that, you'll understand, okay, this is what the author is trying to do. When you see like this kind of things, like however, despite, and then they're trying to qualify the topic and then trying to say this is not, I mean, it may not be applied here, things like that. So that's the use of it, right? So you're actually getting used to what different patterns are, and when you read it, you'll understand that's what it is. Okay, that's it, folks, for today, and we'll catch up tomorrow. Thanks.